Like, how many times have you seen those amazing reports that talk about the enterprise and statistics that just don't matter to you? I know from personal experience that answer is a lot. Huntress published an SMB focused threat report. It's an inaugural report. Joe Slowick and team at Huntress cranked this out based on like 2.5 million endpoints and 1.1 million identities under management. The things I could just share is like hackers are not carrying typical malware with them as much, right? And so we give you the big highlight here of like, look, in Q3, 40% of incidents, right, were high and critical. But notice, followed up with this like 56% were air quote malware free, meaning they're only abusing applications that maybe like live off the land. That makes it really rough for people who implemented big things like zero trust technology. You see the hackers changing their lands or changing their techniques. And this is pretty wild, right? And notice it's not just initial access, right? We start talking about this is from initial access and exploitation all the way through lateral movement persistence and all the way into like the whatever final shebang, that whatever final adversary action the hacker takes. So that's a pretty big observation to notice. The next one, by the way, is when they talk about malware free, well, 65% of our incidents in Q3 alone involved a threat actor exploiting RMM software. So it's not just your typical RMM, that's also remote access tools. So rats are in there as well. But that is a pretty major thing to consider of like, when I said earlier, hackers are pivoting, I don't just mean pivoting away from malware. And let's be real, old school malware still lives and exists. But when they land on these endpoints, they're starting to pivot to built-in software, legitimate apps, and then abusive identities only. So this is, I don't even think we can say it's, winter is coming. It's here.
So we wanted to categorize like what things are being used. You hear a lot of discussion in the security community about Cobalt Strike and Interpreter and stuff. It turns out we actually don't see as many of those as you may be led to believe from some of the security community. We see a lot more RMM. 65% of the things we reported had to do with illegitimate RMMs. And if you go to the next slide, we actually break that down to which RMM. So we say a lot of ConnectWise, a good amount of AnyDesk, and then a smattering of some others, like some TeamViewer, Net Support, and then just the rest kind of just fall into a bucket. So it's difficult to detect these, right? Because the RMM is generally intended to be there. It's legit software. It's just when it's installed in an environment where it's not expected, well, that is malicious. So somebody asked a question: are we saying that attackers are using those tools, RMM and stuff, to attack? Yes, that is how they are remotely controlling the endpoints. They're tricking folks into installing stuff by saying, hey, there's a problem with your computer. We need you to install this thing so that we can fix it, yada, yada, that type of scam. Folks then install it, and then the attacker has full control of their machine, as is expected through an RMM.
Nice.
So we've also got the Microsoft 365 stuff, right? This is kind of like the next frontier. Kyle was talking about new beachfront property. If you think about 5-10 years ago, before people were really on the Microsoft 365 bandwagon, the on-prem stuff, it was like you had a domain controller and you had your Exchange and you had a couple of other things, and you put a firewall around them, and you only let people within the network access them, and maybe you had a VPN, and that was it. Nobody else could touch them. Nowadays, that's not the case, right? We got rid of those. We moved everything to the cloud. And now attackers can touch your Exchange stuff all day long, every day. And so these are the types of incidents we're seeing with Microsoft 365. A lot of suspicious inbox rules, a lot of logons, and some other stuff. And to be fair, this is all biased on the stuff that we know about and can detect, right? Like we can't report on some percentage of stuff that we don't know about.